Hello everyone and welcome back to another very merry edition of every animated movie of the year, and today we saw The Star. I mean, technically we saw The Star a few days ago, the same day as we saw Coco actually, but this review is coming out a little bit later, so The Star. The Star is about as straightforward as it gets, coming to us from our lovely friends over at Sony. The Star is very simply the Nativity story, or the tale of how Jesus was born. Except this version is told from the point of view of the animals that surround the story. Sounds a bit absurd to inject the goofy talking animals that enveloped the entire slate of 2016 animated movies into, well, the story of Christ. But it actually kind of works. As the movie was playing, I was itching to know what devout Christians would think of this film. I mean, according to The Star, Jesus' entire birth would have been drastically different if not for the efforts of one small, random donkey. I could totally see some people being more than a little peeved over that portrayal. If you aren't familiar with this biblical tale, basically our girl Mary is visited by an angel and told that she will bear the Son of God, an immaculate conception, kind of like Anakin Skywalker. So Mary and Joseph travel to Bethlehem to have the child, but most inns are full or they can't afford them, and they end up having to have their kid in a little teeny manger amongst the sheep and some farm animals. Tale as old as time. And by the way, there's a scene in this movie where Mary is explaining to Joseph that the angel just sort of put the baby inside of her magically, even though she's still a virgin, and Joseph sort of looks at her like, am I supposed to believe that? And it had never occurred to me before that Joseph would be like, okay, who else are you sleeping with? And it turned out to be a really funny moment in the movie, and I'm not sure if they intended it to be, but I loved that little dose of reality where Joseph is like, I'm definitely getting cheated on. I was raised in a Christian family and went to Sunday school every week. I have seen this story told in so many different ways, from stage plays and musicals to comic strips to live action movies to animated movies and, of course, just reading it. And almost all of those times, the story was as boring and uneventful as the last. There are so many other incredible and zany stories in the Bible than the Nativity story, and yet this is kind of the most famous, despite it being pretty mundane. And I've got to say, this version of the story is actually pretty entertaining to watch when compared with the traditional stuff. I mean, I would have loved to watch this version rather than the bootleg animated versions that I used to have to watch in Sunday school.
The new king was to be born in Bethlehem. Yes, that's the place.
When you make a movie about a story like this, we already know what happens. We know Mary is going to make it to Bethlehem. We know she's going to end up giving birth to the Savior in a manger. There's never a point where we're like, oh damn, is Jesus not going to get born? So I think it actually works well to tell the story from the animal's perspective. At least we don't know exactly what's going to happen with them, so it adds a little unpredictability. Now, before this review becomes too glowing, I can't exactly say that I really liked the movie. I think it was a great rendition of this played-out story I've heard a billion times before, and I'd say a great treat for young Christians growing up. But as a standalone thing, well, it's kind of take it or leave it. The movie is jam-packed with celebrity voices. Among them are SNL's Aidy Bryant, Zachary Levi, Tyler Perry, Kelly Clarkson, and Oprah, to name just a few. Needless to say, there's not a lot of character development going on. Standouts are Keegan-Michael Key as the donkey's friendly dove sidekick, Dave. It felt good to see Key get a good body of lines compared to what he had in Storks, where he and Jordan Peele were criminally underutilized. Key definitely carries the comedy of the movie and actually has outstanding chemistry with Walking Dead's Steven Yeun, who plays the main donkey Bo. In fact, the friendship of those two characters was actually really natural and likable. Sadly, they were tied to the predestined Bible story, so they could never veer very far off. But I would totally watch a movie with those two going on their own non-Bible related adventure. I think they really brought this film up a notch. But unfortunately, with a million celebrity voice actors in the mix, come a million shoehorned characters, each less memorable than the last. It's a sad truth. The overall look of the film was also pretty stale, stiff, and forgettable, I'm afraid, which is fine. It had a pretty modest budget when you consider how many high-dollar celebs show up on the payroll. They probably didn't have a lot left for the animation budget. But casting Gina Rodriguez, best known for her role on Jane the Virgin, as the Virgin Mary, gotta give props. By and large, though, I would totally recommend this movie as an alternative if you were trying to show the Nativity story. I mean, sure, there's some revisionist donkey-related plot changes, but they're ultimately harmless. And to boot, there's actually a pretty good brand new Mariah Carey Christmas song in the middle of the film to bring it some bonus points. Would I recommend this to someone not particularly interested in the Bible story? Absolutely not. As a tale all its own, it's hard to tout, but I think it definitely accomplishes what it sets out for given the story that it's based on. So let's throw to the list where the star shoots in just above Rock Dog. It's competently told and acted, to be sure, but in the end, Jesus is gonna get born, and there's not much development that can happen around that. But kudos all the same. For parents out there trying to get your kids into the Bible stories, this is a must-buy on DVD. For parents trying to introduce their kids to the art of animated storytelling, well, there are certainly other films out there. But that is all I got for you guys today. Hopefully you enjoyed the episode. We now look forward to Ferdinand from our friends over at Blue Sky. This one looks spicy too, could be amazing, could be a disaster. It's hard to guess with this one, but I am very excited. And of course, once Nutjob 2 comes out to rent, I'll have that Nutjob Leap combo review coming your way. So thank you so very much, you guys, for tuning in, as always, and I will see you next time, right here on Every Animated Movie of the Year.